Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into something really thought-provoking. It's this whole intersection of jobs, purpose, and, well, personal power. We're exploring some pretty profound new takes on something that's, central for so many of us, our work, what it really means. We've gathered quite a few different perspectives here, sources that really look critically at the traditional ways we think about employment. And they contrast that with a more, let's say, purpose-centered view of life.
Right. And our goal, like always, is to really boil it down for you to get to the core insights. We want to show you how this whole understanding of work seems to be shifting and what that means for, your own power, your transformation. Think of it as your shortcut to getting genuinely up to speed on a really vital topic.
Okay, so keeping that evolution in mind, let's dive right into maybe the most challenging idea first. This radical thought that your highest potential is not your job.
Yeah.
I mean, for ages, society's going to push this idea that our identity is all tied up in what we do for a living, right?
Yeah.
But these sources, they're suggesting a really big shift is happening. It's like moving away from just having a job or even a career towards really living a life focused on purpose. They talk about moving beyond being, and this is a provocative phrase, a corporate slave, sort of tied to your job description, to becoming someone who actively brings life to the world through their real purpose. There's even mention of something called the Hero's Journey program.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which seems designed to help people honor this sacred contract, like a deep personal commitment, to awaken their divine potential and really say yes to their soul's high adventure. It sounds quite profound.
It does. And what's striking is how let's call it the old view, often just shrinks life's purpose down to your occupation. It's almost like in that mindset, if you get fired, you lose your whole reason for being, which is intense.
Yeah, terrifying even.
Exactly. But the material we looked at really pushes back hard against that. It argues your worth is actually measured by your inherent creative power, not what's on your business card. And that idea that the perfect job will magically fix everything, self-esteem, money, social life.
The dream job myth.
Right. The sources call that out brilliantly. They frame it as not just hard to find, but actually a kind of trap, a dream used to avoid ordinary life challenges. That's powerful because it shifts the focus, away from external stuff and onto our internal work. So fulfilling your highest potential, it's not just the job. It means acting on your deepest truth in every moment. It's holistic. It covers your work, sure, but also your relationships and health.
Okay, so if we redefine work like that, moving from an external label to an inner purpose, what does that actually mean for personal transformation? How does that connection work?
Right.
The sources mentioned the death of normal impacting jobs, saying that clinging to the old normal is no longer viable.
Right.
It feels like we're in this massive transition period, and a better normal is trying to emerge. But getting there requires a personal journey. It's not just about finding a new position. It implies needing a new you. That feels like a really significant point. The scale of that change requires something deep within us, not just rearranging the deck chairs.
It really does. And it brings up a key distinction, doesn't it, between real transformation and just, more of the same, but maybe bigger. You can get into leadership programs, get a fancy title, but still be essentially operating from the same old place. True transformation, the kind they link to a hero's journey, it fundamentally changes one's sense of self. You leave the old image behind. And what's cool is how this creative power they talk about is seen as adaptable. It responds to what's needed now. Think about writing the shift from typewriters to computers. That's creative power adapting tools.
Good example.
And they make a point to say age is not a limitation to creativity, which reinforces that big life decisions, like about your career, these are often major crossroads that demand that inner shift we talked about.
But of course, this personal journey isn't happening in isolation. It's shaped hugely by the society around us. And the sources, they have some pretty sharp things to say about the dominant model. They really examine this Western puritanical and capitalist model, arguing that it insists on a practical side of the divine, basically demanding proof of God's presence, maybe through productivity, through getting a job. It's a strong critique. They say this model is often seen as nonsensical, something people rebel against. Yet, at the same time, many still cling to the need for practical answers to prayers. Like, okay, I prayed, where's the job offer? That's quite a contradiction they're pointing out. Why do you think we hold on to that model so tightly, even if part of us resists it? Is it just conditioning?
Yeah, largely it seems to be societal conditioning. The material points out that society is just so production-oriented. It doesn't really have space for things like spiritual crises if they mean someone's off the production line and, costing money. And this era we're in now, it's described as a time of huge transformation. So many skills are becoming obsolete, which leaves a lot of people feeling, well, unskilled. One source uses this image of people being on boats in a really crowded river of change. It's quite evocative.
Yeah, that paints a picture.
And this transformation isn't just skills. They even touch briefly on AI, noting that while it's changing work, the sources assert it will never be able to pray or receive inspiration because it lacks a soul. Which kind of highlights this core human, maybe spiritual element that technology can't replicate. Purpose beyond just output.
Interesting distinction.
And this fear of change, of becoming obsolete, it's not exactly new. They bring up historical examples, like how some parts of society historically didn't want their children educated.
Oh, fearing they'd leave.
Exactly, fearing they'd leave the small towns, leave the traditional jobs. It's that deep fear of change and loss of tribal identity that we still kind of see playing out today with work.
So with all these societal shifts and this evolving idea of purpose, what does this mean for your personal power? For the actual choices you make day to day? The sources are pretty clear. A powerful choice isn't just about external factors. It's not just the money or the rank or privilege. It's something much deeper. It's about understanding that you operate the laws of cause and effect.
Yes, exactly. The journey towards self-empowerment, as they frame it, is really about managing one's power. And crucially, not giving it away, not abdicating it for external security. Take the rebel archetype they mention. That person may not make the best employee because they instinctively resist restriction. So it makes sense that these types often find their place in leadership or entrepreneurial roles where they have more autonomy.
That connection makes a lot of sense. The rebel needing freedom to lead or create.
Definitely. And they also stress the profound energetic consequences of job choices, citing the sheer stress of a job that involves, say, creating spin to destroy the life of another person or making fake news. That kind of work, it suggested, can literally cause a breakdown in well-being.
Wow. So the ethical dimension has real, tangible impact.
It seems so, which underscores why developing self-esteem is so vital for well-being and empowerment. Because genuine self-esteem helps you make choices that align with your inner self, instead of just being driven by those basic survival fears, like not having enough money or the fear of criticism.
Right, moving beyond fear-based decisions.
Yeah, and those prayers we mentioned, the ones asking for practical things, like where's my job? The sources frame that as a kind of capitalist spiritual non-believer mentality, which is a really interesting critique, suggesting it's a mindset demanding concrete, almost market-like proof of divine help, rather than faith or inner alignment, it makes you ask. Is that need for tangible proof actually getting in the way of a deeper connection to purpose?
It's a challenging thought.
Ultimately, they suggest the deepest desire is to be liberated. And that inner journey often means facing our cravings for attention, power, winning things that can turn destructive. And that confrontation leads to this pivotal question, is it me? Is my own stuff getting in the way? Asking that question is what apparently propels one to the next level of understanding.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the core transformation we've really unpacked today seems to be this massive shift, moving away from seeing your job as your whole identity, towards truly embracing a life centered on purpose and understanding your own personal power within that.
Yeah, absolutely. This deep dive, I think, really highlights it's not just about how we work changing. It's a much more profound evolution in how we understand ourselves, our place in the world.
So we'll leave you with this thought to chew on. If your highest potential truly isn't your job title, and your real worth is measured by your creative power, what choices might you start making differently right now, today, to act on your deepest truth in every single moment across all areas of your life?